All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jean Wallace. I'm the Deputy Commissioner and Chief Engineer at the Minnesota Department of Transportation and also the Vice Chair of the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials Committee on Performance-Based Management. Welcome to the second quarterly meeting, joint meeting of the AASHTO CPBM and the Transportation Performance Management Technical Service Program, or TPM TSP, for 2026. And thank you all for being here today. We have many folks to thank as we begin our meeting today. First, I want to thank our CPBM Chair, Christos Xenofantos, who will hopefully be able to join us later today, and our entire CPBM leadership group for your participation in today's meeting. We really appreciate the hard work and dedication of all of our state DOT volunteers. Also, many thanks to FHWA, especially Latoya Johnson and Ayanda Dent, who are here with us today, and to Anna McLaughlin and the entire AASHTO team supporting the CPBM. I am also excited to announce we have filled all of our leadership vacancies with engaged and curious professionals from across the country. So please join me in welcoming Jim Padilla from Texas DOT, Joe Burke from Maryland SHA, Deirdre Wallace and Alicia Howard from Delaware DOT, and Matt Burstall from Washington State DOT. Yes, many applauses for all of those folks. Thanks for volunteering to be part of our team. Our quarterly meeting aimed to share AASHTO and CPBM committee information and updates with CPBM members, stakeholders, and partners. And before we begin, just note that links to the recordings and slides from today's web call will be posted on the TPM portal at tpm-portal.com after today's call. We would ask that you please be sure to mute yourself during the meeting to avoid distractions. And we have reserved ample time for discussion today, and entering your information in the chat will help us organize that conversation. You'll be able to unmute yourself or raise your hand later if you wish to speak. We have a fantastic program planned for today, so let's take a moment to review our agenda. So in a few minutes, Ann McLaughlin, the Program Director for Transportation Program Management at AASHTO, will highlight AASHTO updates and upcoming CPBM meetings. We'll then hear from our federal partners, Latoya Johnson and Ayanda Dent, who are graciously joining us to provide updates and host a listening session with you, our performance management community. And then we'll transition into our CPBM business meeting with updates from subcommittees, task forces, and working groups. So without further ado, let's turn it over to Anna.
Thanks so much, Jean. Happy to be here. Welcome, everyone. Happy World Cup Day to those who celebrate or who will be celebrating World Cup today and over the next few weeks. I am just going to jump right in with some information. I have a few updates to give from kind of the AASHTO side that I wanted to share with the group. The first, I just wanted to mention AASHTO's fiscal year is starting. FY27 is starting at the end of, it's going to wrap up. FY26 is wrapping up. We're going to start FY27 July 1. And so many of you, I'm sure, have been receiving emails from Abigail about joining the TSP for FY27. I will say we have made a lot of great progress. We still have many kind of outstanding letters of commitment from folks, but I did just want to give a shout out to the ones that we have already received their commitment and their paperwork. I don't know if Thad from South Dakota is here yet, but he was our very first person to return his letter of commitment. We've been working on these since March, and he was the quickest to turn it around. So yes, shout out to Thad in South Dakota. I told him I would let everybody know that he was on top of it. If you are... this list right here is the states that we work with that get optional services through the TSP. There are kind of two ways to join, either directly through a letter of commitment to get these optional services. We also do a general AASHTO solicitation for all of our TSPs, everything from like winter weather to the safety TSP. So some of the solicitation for these goes through your director or your secretary's office. If you have questions about where your state is in that process for joining, or if you have questions about it, please reach out to myself or to Abigail. This performance management TSP is how we bring you our monthly webinars for performance management and asset management, how we are able to host peer exchanges, as well as our resources at the TPM portal. So kind of helps us support you in the work that you're doing. Next slide. A couple of things I just want to talk about. This is going to be super high level. We're not going to really get into a lot of the details of reauthorization right now. But we do, I think, yes, certainly since our last meeting. Last month in May, we had a proposal from the House T&I Committee, Build America 250 Act. We're there. We have been working on this for years. I know it seems like years because it has been years that we have been working on reauthorization, identifying our priorities, writing white papers, having conversations with Hill staff. And we have a proposed bill. So we're just kind of at the beginning stages of that. And to get into, I have another slide with a little more detail, but one thing I just want to shout out is our policy and rulemaking committee. They will be talking more about the details of that. I'm so a shout out for Ryan and Joe and Jim and their July 14th meeting. If you want to kind of get more in the weeds on what this bill is looking like, please join our policy and rulemaking meeting on the 14th. Next slide. Just high level here. I have very high level bullet points. And one thing that we have completed kind of is a summary of the bill. It has gone out to our TPF members, our Transportation Policy Forum. If you would like me to share that with you as well, you can either chat internally at your DOT. They should have all of this information that AASHTO has kind of summarized and pulled together. But I'm also happy to send it to you. So if you would like, please chat me or send me an email and I can send that to you. There are kind of, again, high level, there are a couple overarching themes. Fundamentally, we do believe that it remains very state DOT centered and formula driven. There are a number of changes and they've incorporated several provisions that were advocated for by the MPOs and local governments with some funding. Again, happy to send more information on that and or come to our policy and rulemaking meeting on the 14th. Next slide. This is also just a heads up. This is a project that I have been working on and some in this committee have been working on since 2023. AASHTO is working with NCHRP to develop an asset risk and resilience manual, really to provide states with the resources to have a science-based approach to assessing risk and resilience throughout the whole transportation life cycle. In addition to having an NCHRP panel, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with, we've also created an AASHTO task force that has been working with the panel and with NCHRP and the research team to help guide the development of this manual. And we're getting to the end. We're getting to the end. At the end of this year, we're expecting the final manual to be delivered to AASHTO. And this is ours. So you all, the Committee on Performance-Based Management, own this manual, and we will be reviewing it and balloting it. In my time here at AASHTO, this is the first time I will have the privilege of helping you all ballot a manual. So we're going to be talking about it kind of over the next few months and through the rest of the year. And then when 2027 rolls around, we're going to start actually reviewing it, like the technical content, giving feedback, and then hopefully approving it. So trying to put this on everyone's radar. One thing that we will be doing is having a full day workshop on this manual for our committee's voting members or their designee. That's going to be in San Diego in October. I'm hoping next in early July to be able to get out a travel memo about that particular workshop. And we'll be having our CPBM annual meeting. We are meeting the 6th, 7th, and 8th in San Diego. Um, Registration, I keep getting told, is coming any day now. Any day now. So I'm working with our meetings team. We just need the final signatures on the hotel contract. And then we will be launching registration and sharing information on the meeting with you all. So mark your calendars, please. And I hope to see you all in San Diego. Slide. I know that we have an update coming up later in our meeting from our research subcommittee, but you're gonna have a look at the 6 approved research projects that were submitted by the Committee on Performance-Based Management. And I want to say kudos to this group, kudos to our research subcommittee for getting 6 research project approved kind of in our area of performance management. Great job. Those are not easy. Like it takes work to kind of shepherd them through the process, get them approved. And now there's still more work to do though, and it is to get on these panels. It is super critical that we have state DOTs represented on these research panels at NCHRP. The project, the research, they need the input from the state DOTs, from you all. So I'm asking you kindly, begging you, pleading with you to really consider being on a panel for this upcoming year. There are 6 projects. There could be other ones too on the list that was approved that might be of interest to you. And if not you, then maybe someone on your staff. I really do think these panels are a great like professional development opportunity to meet others in the field, to kind of work on a project. So please, you can nominate yourself. If you would like me to nominate you, I'm happy to do that too. Please send me your name and what project you're interested in, and I will not happy to nominate you. June 30th is when the deadline is to have panel nominations. So again, there's some time, but we'll probably send out some more reminders. And I think there is an email in folks. John sent out an email to the full committee list, so that with all these links and more information. So again, it's important, and I hope that you guys will get something out of being on one of those panels. Next. I don't know, actually, I know that I say that I don't know that this is my last slide, but another additional thing I wanted to just kind of flag for folks. I think this was a communication from earlier this week that came from Julia Glickman, who's our liaison for the Committee on Data Management and Analytics. The Bureau of Transportation Statistics has a request for information out right now. AASHTO is drafting a comment letter to give comments and feedback on their request. There are a number of questions. And I do think that some of they're kind of really trying to get some information on data gaps, their format, how their products are delivered, how they're being used, how they can better support the states. It's a great time to speak up about that data. I do think that, so the Committee on Data Management and Analytics is taking the lead on this, but I do think it has some implications for performance management, some for on the planning side. So we're kind of working collaboratively to get comments. My ask would be that you work through your member of the Committee on Data Management and Analytics to give any feedback. The federal comment deadline is July 2nd, but because we need time to compile and put together comments and then get it signed by our President, Russell McMurray, we need input by June 18th. So again, something to flag, put on your radar. We are trying to get some feedback on this and again, how we can give some good constructive feedback to BTS about their data. Thank you. And then maybe that was it. Abigail? Oh, and then I just want to put in this is my plug as always. We're going to get updates later in the meeting from our subcommittee chairs and leadership. And I just want you to take a moment to maybe scan the link and join a subcommittee if you're not already um, included on one of the subcommittees. It's again, I think it's good professional development. It's great networking, sharing of best practices, a good way to get involved with this fun group. So I think that's it from me. I'm going to go next slide because I think it is. It is. I am now going to turn it back to Eugene. That was it. That was
All
it for
right.
me. Sorry, that was long. It was very wordy. Sorry.
No, that was great information. There's a lot to update right now. And especially, I thank you for all those updates, but I especially really want to echo what you said about getting volunteers to participate in the SCHRP projects. That is a huge opportunity for anybody who is able to get on one of those research panels. But it's also vitally important to be able to carry through on the research that we all propose to get funded. So it's super important. If you haven't done it before, take the opportunity to self-nominate through whatever your agency process is. And also, if you have done it before, consider doing it again. Thank you so much again, Anna. Really great updates. All right, so now we're going to be hearing from our federal partners, Latoya Johnson and Amanda Dent. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome, and I'll turn it over to you. And, you are still on mute.
Unmute. Okay.
Yep,
All
there
right.
you go.
So let me pull up I didn't know if you were going to do the bio. So I'm going to pull up the short bio. Let me see that so I can introduce myself. Hello, everyone. I'm Ayanda Dent, and I represent Federal Highway, the Enterprise Performance Management Team. I have been with the federal government for over about 23 years. I think it's 23 years now and 10 months. I have been at Federal Highway since, okay, I lost my Zoom button. I've been at Federal Highways since 2004. And prior to that, I was at the Census Bureau for quite some time. I started out my career as a mathematical statistician. And probably midway through my career, after taking some project management courses, I started getting heavily involved and being put on committees and working with senior leaders on that. And I actually started doing enterprise project management just because I do value efficiency, which is one of the top goals you see here. But I also, before I left, I was the American Community Survey Program Management Office Chief. Some of you are probably familiar with that data. And I know you have partnerships with Census as well. And I also was American Housing Survey Project Manager, just to name a few. And so what I do currently now is Enterprise Performance Management Team Lead, is oversee, we'll get into that, but pretty much the performance management piece where we work with the Office of the Secretary for your annual performance goals, and also work with, if Federal Highway chooses to have a plan, strategic plan, I would work on that. But risk management as well. I am a National Highway Institute risk instructor. Did that a few times. That's been put on hold for the past year, but I do teach that course, and I've taught a lot. I taught a lot of project management courses also when I was at the Census Bureau, and worked on enterprise initiatives. So I spent even a great deal of time in HR doing enterprise work as well. I have a bachelor's in applied math and a master's in statistics. So, and I love mentoring, and just finished up the Federal Highway mentoring program. I love all things project management. I am a certified project management professional. So if you ever have any questions on that end, you can feel free to contact me. Okay. So what you're looking at here, so the DOT strategic plan was released about 2 months ago now. I put the link in, hopefully you can get the link in the chat. I'm trying to keep the slides condensed just because I wanted to mitigate the risk of getting my slides held up for a while, because we have to go through that process of getting them approved. So I'll go over the goals and kind of just walk you through the plan. That was much easier, just so I could have the slides for today. But so the main four goals are, of course, safety. And then we have our infrastructure, You can say here, invest in high quality transportation infrastructure. And we have innovation and we have efficiency. And so these are the 4 primary goals. I don't know if you can click on that. Can I share or can you share so I can? All right. So we have all of the modes listed here. I think everyone might be with everybody. It's FAA, Federal Highway. We have PHMSA, Federal Railroad, Transit, Maritime. NHTSA, who we do share like quite a few information with NHTSA. We work closely with them, and I'm sorry, this is now turn off. I'm actually off today. I wasn't feeling well, so I didn't have a chance to turn all this off. So pipeline and hazardous materials, and then this is not one of our current modals. I'm not going to get into that. So any questions pertaining to some of this stuff is probably going to be out of scope for me. So we're just aligning with this plan. So our mission, again, is advance safety, move people and goods, and build big and beautiful infrastructure. And so if you just go through the plan, it's like any standard plan, but you go through and then they have the objectives under the plan. Some of the key objectives are safety, again, is aviation. A lot of stuff here pertain with FAA. And reduce surface transportation related fatalities and serious injuries. So NHTSA does own a goal that we share with, we help provide them with information, but they're the owner of a goal or objective for this particular goal. And improve transportation worker safety and develop safety management systems across the modes. So this is where we're trying to, that also gets into somewhat of the modernization piece that DOT is trying to implement. And then of course, project delivery, which some of you have probably, if you work with our RBSO, risk-based oversight area, and they do a lot with the project delivery with the states and the federal highway offices. And then we have construct projects to expand system capacity, improve system condition and reliability, and position the U.S. transportation sector for economic competitiveness at home and abroad. And so most federal highways, our objectives or our particular input into the plan will fall on the 2.3. And so we actually have 3 metrics that we're tracking, and I'll highlight those in a second. So under 2.3 is where most of the highway information will be. And then we go into, I'm trying to, size it up for you, so I'm too small. Innovation, and we want to reduce all burden, any regulatory burden, enable transportation technology development and adoption, and invest in transformative technology. So we are actually, I'm glad this was in Zoom because we are in the middle of a transition actually from Microsoft to Google, which has been quite interesting. And so all of our platforms are being transitioned right now in between both of those. So as part of that. And then we also have the efficiency piece where we want to modernize DOT operations. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but I will highlight the ones that Federal Highway partakes in. Let's see, under 2. It's pretty much going to be under 2.3. So we have, here we have the improved system condition and reliability. And this is dealing with freight and passenger congestion. It's focusing on state of good repair and supporting on-time arrivals through deployment of time-based flow management. But I would encourage you, I didn't want to spend the time just reading through a document, especially since I could not provide you with customized slides, but it is a worthy read. And of course, if you have any questions pertaining to the Federal Highway component, I can give you more information, but it is a good read just to go through. It's nice. I like it. I like that it's nice, simple, and because some strategic plans could be quite lengthy. And so I'm going to stop there and then go back to the slide. Stop sharing. And okay, can you go back to thank you so much. That was smooth. All right, so the next slide, please. Okay, so here are some performance metrics that we track. So we report to the annual performance plan, and it's I have some links. I'll bring that up at the end, so she won't have to keep going back and forth. I'll bring it up after I talk through this. And the annual performance reporting for our APGs and annual performance goals. And these are the 3 goals. We used to have more, but it was just de-scoped this past year when the new administration came in. And these are the 3 goals that they actually wanted us to focus on. And again, it pertains to what I had just mentioned there in 2.3. And so we have our interstate pavement good condition, which is for, again, goal 2.3. And it's the interstate pavement, is it in fair or better condition? And there was a target set to have at least 95% of them. And the 2025 total it met the target, it exceeded the target at 99.1. And we are currently, we're still in 2026, so we don't have that, but we've already set the targets. It's pretty much the same for 2027. Although there could be an update, I think there's still time for us to update if we wanted to, if the secretary or the secretary's office wanted to implement more goals. But for now, they're keeping it at 3. And so then we have the bridge condition. And this is the NHS bridge deck area in fair or better condition. And this is the National Highway System bridge deck area in fair or better condition. And so we did have a target of greater than or equal to 95%, and it was at 96%. And then number 3 is the reliable freight movement, where we have the truck travel time reliability index, where we're tracking the truck travel time, which we want it to be less than 1.4, and it was. And it, ironically, Latoya, her area, actually gives some of the data for one of these. So we actually, our area, we pretty much work with the SMEs, work with OST. OST comes, the Office of the Secretary, it's OST. They come through our office for pretty much all data requests. Instead of going to the program offices, because that could be burdensome to them. So we're that conduit where we get the data, help work on the narratives. Once the SMEs send them in, or they provide us the narratives if we have to adjust anything based on OST requirements. But we try to also make sure that we're staying within whatever they're reporting, or if we have to. Sometimes you have to negotiate on certain things. We do that instead of our program offices to reduce that burden and just to eliminate all the separate emails going to everyone. And then we're not able to update our leadership on the executive director and the politicals on what's being said, because if they're going to multiple offices. So we pretty much we're that liaison, and we're in the middle now of working on some fiscal year 27 stuff. So, and now if you go to the next slide, and then I'll end with the links for that, to kind of going through the documents. Still, I kept it pretty simple. I probably could have given you a whole a big slideshow just on what we do, but just to keep it simple and not have to go through as far as my approval chains, because where I sit, I'm currently in Office of Policy. We're not really policy. They had a reorg like a couple of years ago. They put us under policy, under transportation studies. I have nothing to do with transportation studies. So if you're on the internet, that's where you'll see it, but I have nothing to do with that. But from the Office of Policy, and then you have, your executive director and your political. So a lot of times, some of these things that it is having to brief leadership on things that come and go from, because we act on behalf of Federal Highway. And so what we do, we pretty much, strategy, meaning the strategic plans are strategizing how we're going to implement requests, because there are a lot of other additional requests from OST that you didn't see here. Some of them are ad hoc. It really depends on the administration. The previous administration, there were quite a few data requests for the bill and, you know, the IJA. And then also they had a White House task force that always would ask for data. So we pretty much, if there are any requests, we don't get many requests right now for additional any kind of data requests or any kind of information. So they, like I said, they have descoped a lot of some of the requests, but we still do the performance reporting and we do risk. So I also, all these things are actually statutorily required. And so as far as the risk piece, we work with the program offices and all the division offices to develop risk. And right now, what I have just done in the past couple of months is did a complete risk overhaul of, hasn't been deployed yet. That's kind of stuck in the approval. But I rewrote the plan, made sure it was pretty much updated to be in line with industry standards, and made it easier. I looked at the data from what we were getting from the division offices and in the program offices. And it's a thing, you know, learning how to write a good risk statement and be able to communicate that, you know, this is really good information and we really need that now. So I wanted to make sure that people understand how to really craft risk statements, looking at their probability and your impacts and being able to articulate that, because we do talk and speak to all the division offices pretty regularly for the Federal Highway Division offices. And there are a lot of pain points. And so right now, especially with resource capacity or lack thereof and resource constraints. And so I'm trying to get them to make sure that we can clearly articulate the needs, but through risk statements, right? That's one of the reasons why I love project management, is being able to use it as a great communication tool. And so we just did a series of workshops with all of our division offices, and we're doing a pilot on the new process because we're having to also change our platform from Microsoft to Google. So we've been doing a series of workshops, making sure people understand. And I'm hoping that down the road we can update the NHI risk materials as well. Just because when I did teach it, a few times I had to actually bring in some of my material to supplement the class. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to update that in the near future. But the hope is to be able to really have a good enterprise risk register that we can go to leadership and say, hey, these are the enterprise risks across the board. Before, right now, it was just going to OST, because we do have to have a risk profile that is statutorily required that we have to send up to the department, the Office of the Secretary. OMB they were asking for it in the past. I don't know, there hasn't been a official ask for it as of yet, but we do have to communicate that. But for me right now, it is so relevant that we really need a good risk register. Not only that, but just make sure how can we mitigate them at an enterprise level if they roll up. And then I know that there's a lot of oversight with project delivery. And so we met with that area quite a bit, just kind of trying to align and get on the same page with how we can use some of the information that they're requesting of states, but we can funnel that through like the mitigation plans that they might have as well. And then lastly, we do program evaluation where we have the Evidence Act, which is evidence-based decision-making of 2018. And there are some key projects right now. We have the bill, the bridge, bridge improvement program, but it's currently, that's probably on hold, but we're evaluating some findings that I think it was GAO had, and they were just trying to go through and come up with some process improvements for them, just looking at some of their data and how the grant management process went about. And then we have PROTECT, which I always forget this long acronym, which is promoting resilient operations for transportation efficiency costs, or for efficiency cost saving transportation. I can't even read my own handwriting. So we have two evaluations going on right now. And it's usually one that is some of the key projects. However, Federal Highway, we're trying to build that capacity. We don't really have that capacity to resource-wise as much as some of the other modes. They have a whole unit just dedicated to that. It's a team of 3 right now for me. We lost 2 people to last year to the DRP. So I'm only working with 3 people right now. And so we also have a few other requests that are actually on the internet as well, which is our capacity assessment that OST sends out. It's also statutorily required to see if we actually have the capacity to fulfill the mission. So they'll ask a survey and about the different roles, engineering, statistics, and like, do we actually have the capacity to get this information or to fulfill our mission? And there's a few other ones, but yeah, these are the key things that we do. And so I'm going to share my screen. I'm just going to walk you through the APP and APR.
And Ayanda, I did put those links in the chat, and we'll also share those after the webinar on the event page.
Okay, thank you. All right, I had them up too, so I think I clicked on it twice. Give me 1 second. Oh, here we go. All right, go back to Zoom. Share. All right. And okay, I think you can see my screen. Can you see this portion? Okay, hopefully
yes.
You can. Okay. Okay, so let me just show you the beginning of it. Again, I would rather have shown you, if I could remove this, I would rather have shown you some slides, some key. But all right, here we go. So what you'll see when you, for these particular plans, is because you see 27 and 25, it might look a little confusing. So the 27 actually refers to the annual performance plan piece, and the 25 is the reporting piece. So right now, like this just came out, so we just reported on 25. So and in 26, we're also moving towards the targets for 27. So that's why you'll see it as the plan of what we're going to do and the reporting of what we did just completed from the previous fiscal year. So just remember, it's just the way it's set up here. It'd probably be nice if they just said fiscal year 27 plan and 25 report, but that's the way it reads. And if you go through, it's just going through our operating administrations and our major management challenges. That is another thing, that we report on. All right, I'm using my fingers, y'all. Sorry. This is why I like slides. Instead of this. So open the link. I would say open the link because I'm probably gonna like really irritate you all with this. Okay. Because I don't know why the size changed on me. Can you all see this good enough? Let's see. All right, here we go. All right. Okay. So if you go through it, you have some major management challenges, and this is going across the modes and some of the particular challenges that might, anything that might be put you at risk for not fulfilling the mission. It's usually not that many across the modes. As you can see, it's all on the same page. It's not that many, but you can go through and read those. And so it actually breaks the plan up into their the goals again, and then what the goals are for safety, infrastructure, and innovation and efficiency. And so right now, we're actually setting the targets. We just had a data call for that. And again, this also just shows the fiscal year 25 report. And then we have another in the appendix. If they made any updates to the goals, they're there. But we also have, it's Performance Data Completeness and Reliability Report. This is something else we also report on. So if they'll come back and ask us particular questions and for data completeness. Sometimes there are questions that they may get on a regular, but any gaps that might be seen, we just have to fill in like it's some narrative there on to let you know where we're getting our data from, and that it is it's complete and it's reliable. So, and a review of the 27 performance plan by the Bureau of Transportation Statistics. They are actually one of the reviewers for this particular data completeness report. So they will come back and review our information from a statistical standpoint, and if they see any gaps of the way we're reporting. And that's it. So you just kind of go through again, all of them kind of stood up. You have Secretary Duffy and our Deputy Secretary here. We have all of the modes, that's what we call them here, all the different operating administrations, the OAs listed here. And we have our major management challenges. So I would invite you to click on this because there is a whole report. Again, we help gather information for that from our management and high risk. And so, but this is based on the Inspector General as what the IG gathers as a high risk to us being able to fulfill our mission. And so the 9 major areas, I just briefly go over them, are aviation safety, which, if you're following in the news and even if you've just gone to the airport, sometimes the delays are due to some air traffic controller, because we need the resources as far as the air traffic controller. That is one of the DOT risks. And then, so the surface safety, surface transportation infrastructure, grantee technical capacity, financial stewardship, IT security, air traffic control and airspace modernization, transportation innovation, and curbing fraud, waste, and abuse. So I would invite you to read some of those as well. Again, if I were, we're going to put slides together, I would probably highlight some key things. So here, just going through, the way it reads are your performance goals and then the targets that are set. So we did get a call for the 27 targets. However, if we want to update any goals, we can. And so that's the call that's going on now. And you can see in some instances that the targets are changed. So I will point out that, let me see, one of these we do share with NHTSA is the fatalities one. Yes, 1.2.4. I noticed the large trucks, but we share a lot of the where NHTSA is with this passenger fatalities. We actually help give them data for that. So again, remember ours was under 2.3 and I think 4. So, well, no, all of them are here, 3. 2.33, 2.34, and then 2.36 is where you see federal highway. And how you read it again is like, so you set your targets and they don't generally move too much with the targets. And then what you'll see is just the narratives if you want a better, more elaborate explanation. And they actually give you links to some of the stuff that they're referencing. And, but this is the general way to see what the administration is focusing on. So just think of the plan. This is what we set out to do. Here are the goals and objectives. And the metrics, how are we going to track that? And yeah, I won't go through it. So this is just basically this piece. And then at the end, it's the APR. Okay, yep. So that was the APP piece, 2025 results. You'll see here, it'll tell you whether those targets were met. And you can look across all the modes for this. Okay. And while I have my things up, I'm going to show you one more. Can't really see it, but how do I hide this? Okay. was going to show you the evaluations. I don't have the link. Does anybody know how you can get rid of this thing here?
Do you want the evaluation plan?
Yes.
Okay.
I have it under here.
If you want to
Oh,
stop sharing, I can share if you want.
okay. Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
We don't use Zoom very often, guys, so sorry about that. All right. So this is the plan. When I was speaking of protect and our bridge evaluation, if you wanted to just, and yeah, it's just going to go through, these are just across all of the different modes, but it's a a good read just to go and see like what are we evaluating. Usually it is if it's a high priority program or initiative going on with the administration, sometimes they are highlighted. So just wanted to show you that, so we're not even, so with right here, it says the fiscal year, the 4 that will drive. You can see that federal highway is really not listed right there. The bridge program was like for the previous administration was a big driving force. So as we move forward, we're actually now working on the call for the fiscal year 28 evaluation plan, meeting with OST to determine that. So if you have, if you have any input, things that you would like to see us evaluate from a program perspective, I can always take that. It's always good to take any kind of feedback back. But thank you. She's scrolling through, just showing you how they're set up. And we pretty much just give a general overview of the particular evaluation. Yeah. And so it's usually, sometimes they're longer. It depends. It just depends on the year. And sometimes what happens if they're not in fiscal year 26 or something, they're carrying over. So if it was, it might not be finished, like the bridge one won't be finished this year. It'll probably be, it's not going to be done. So it might not show in that particular year, just FYI.
Did you want me to show the learning agenda or no?
You can, but I'll just briefly tell them what the learning agenda means. Thank you so much. So helpful. The learning agenda pretty much sets out like what are the things that we want to focus on for the next couple of years and any initiatives. And we haven't set one yet. They're going to combine the learning agenda and evaluation plan. I think moving forward for the current administration. So we didn't have a big data ask. So it pretty much goes through and it lines out any major projects or initiatives that the different modes would like to see. So you have the priority questions and what they want to answer based on that. And this could come from the public. It could come from our constituents. It could come from, it can even come from the subcommittees. If you have, we have questions that need to be answered. So some of our questions did come out, sparked from an audit, and it was a process question. So the evaluation is just focusing on the process component. And hopefully as we build a capacity at Federal Highway with more people, we'll be able to do more evaluation, some modes. If you do happen to go through these, they do have quite a few because they have a whole office dedicated just to evaluations. Okay. Thank you so much for doing that. And that's it for me. I'll just say I do have 2 other people, Sade Went and Darla Hugaboom. They both work out in another office. Sade works in the Baltimore office and Darla is out in Iowa. She works in the Iowa office. They're both ADL, alternative duty location employees. So, but we're a mighty team of 3, I would say. And that's it. Should I turn it over to you, Latoya? She could bring up her slides. Or who's next? I don't know if you wanted. Are you doing a question there, or are we saving them to the end? I don't know if I'm. Guess we're doing it. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ayanda. Good presentation. It's so funny. Ayanda said that my team, we've provided information. I think this is the first time that I've had such a comprehensive overview of all of the enterprise performance reporting that we do up to OST, even though I think I've given information almost every year for those reports. So this is good. I've learned some things today. So I just want to say this committee is very special because to get that comprehensive overview. So thanks, Ayanda. So we're going to transition a little bit. Ayanda's team and my team, we both work very closely with this committee, participate in, all the subcommittees, et cetera. And as you hopefully you're starting to kind of see that Ayanda is on the enterprise performance area. Her team really drives organizationally the things that we Federal Highway, our organization, does as far as performance management. And you probably can relate very much to having some of the same practices and strategies and probably reporting requirements in your organizations. So you may ask, well, what is this? What's the transportation asset performance or the TAP team? Where do we come in? And so as Yonda said, her team currently sits in the Office of Policy, where the Transportation Asset Performance team, we sit in the Office of Infrastructure at Federal Highway. And I think, one of the big distinctions is, our team is really focused on performance from project delivery, transportation asset side of the house. So, working with all of you, the state DOTs, the division offices, to look at how exactly transportation infrastructure is performing across the country. And so even though Ayanda's team and our team, there are some core kind of fundamental strategies and information and knowledge that we both lean upon as far as like risk and risk management. That's really kind of the distinction where we are turned towards project delivery, transportation infrastructure, performance, where she is looking at enterprise organizational performance. And luckily, this committee kind of brings all of that together. So next slide. So just a little bit about the TAP team. Where we sit, our mission is to lead transportation agencies in data-driven strategic decision-making to optimize asset performance. So those of you who have worked with us, as we work with state DOTs to make sure that federal requirements in this space are met, hopefully you can see how our work through the years has really moved or tried to move, this mission. The role of the TAP team, of course, I think it's pretty obvious. For many years, we have focused on asset management and transportation performance management, and looking at, research and practice to make sure or to try to optimize the condition, performance, and investment efficiency of the highway system. Again, words like data-driven, cyclical reporting, life cycle decision making. We're also working in this space that we are starting to call high performance infrastructure. So this is the area where we would be looking at, strategies such as life cycle cost analysis, looking at resilience more closely, and practices and strategies to speak to progressing those areas. So of course, we work very closely and provide support to division offices, program offices, other offices in Federal Highway, state DOTs to ensure compliance. So this is our focus, ensuring compliance with the performance related requirements in support of Federal Highway's mission. So next slide. So what is our wheelhouse specifically when we talk about these performance related requirements? Next slide, Abigail. So here, federal agencies, we love throwing out statute. And so I'll just give you three that are really kind of really where we sit, where we work, our team, kind of our guardrails. Even though there are others, of course, that there are some linkages, but hopefully these are not a surprise to any of you. You probably read them often because there are requirements and reporting that you have to do every year pretty much. So 23 USC 150 talks about, the national goals and the performance management measures. So a lot of the data that we report to Ayana, the bridge data, the pavement data, the reliability data, the reason that we have that data is for 23 USC 150, where those requirements require state DOTs and other agencies to submit that data to Federal Highway. The second one is 23 USC 119, and that's of course where the requirements around asset management sit, and the asset management plan. And then 23 USC 503, subsection C1D it speaks to technology and innovation deployment. And so here's some of those broader areas of like high performing infrastructure that I was talking about, where Federal Highway can really promote strategies and practices around things like efficiency, safety, service life, etc. Next slide. So who's our team? Hopefully you see a lot of names and faces that you're familiar with. Like all the Federal Highway, we have gone through some changes. I am one of the newest members of the team. I have been with the team for just over a year now. I hit my 1 year anniversary last month. But several of these people have been around. I'm sure you've worked with them. But again, feel free to reach out at any time if you haven't already to any members of our team, and we'll post the email address that we all have access to. We're all going into and responding and checking emails. So that's the best way to get in contact with us. But again, we're here to implement those activities around that statute and definitely around performance of transportation assets and those requirements. So with that, I want to do a little bit of shifting. I know we have given you a lot of information. Well, now I have an ask of all of you where we're going to ask for some input and some feedback. I kind of am calling this like a little bit of a customer satisfaction survey or customer input feedback survey. And so, like I mentioned, like Ayana has alluded to, Federal Highway's gone through several changes, many changes. We're still going through many changes, i.e. Google, over the past several months. Staffing, resources, changing in administration priorities. And so, although there have been several challenges, just like you and your organizations, we're really trying to use these changes as an opportunity. And so I think for us, we're looking at it as an opportunity to evaluate and kind of rethink our programs and how we engage with stakeholders. And so, no secret, no surprise. I think anybody in Federal Highway will tell you, state DOTs, you are our most important stakeholder at Federal Highway. Without you guys, we can't do what we do. And so it's so important that, we get information and we engage as appropriate. So we just pulled up a little bit of a Mentimeter. I think we have about 8 questions that we just want to go through very quickly. Where we want to gauge some of your communication preferences given where we are and given where you are. Because I also know I've talked to a lot of folks from state DOTs. You also are going through a lot of changes, a lot of retirements, a lot of new people, a lot of people changing positions. And so we're going to kind of go through this really quickly. So get your phones out, your computers out. You see the Mentimeter QR code on the screen. I see some people have already started to respond. And so the first question, I'll give you a minute. You guys can keep going, but just to kind of set us up as you get into Mentimeter, is we kind of thought that there are really three areas that Federal Highway engages in the space of the content related to this committee. And so, of course, we look at guidance on those regulatory requirements and compliance. We also talk a lot about best practices and case studies. And then, of course, we are always kind of giving out information around capacity building resources, whether it's tools or training or workshops and other things that we're hosting. So, given kind of those three, what we consider key areas of content, how do you rank those? How do you rank the value of that content to you from Federal Highway? And then, of course, we have a catch-all category of other, which I see some people have selected. I would love to hear your thoughts about what other means. So if you want to put it in the chat or if somebody wants to holler out real quick, I think you can unmute. But again, can you rank the value of these things? Like, what is the most important to you to hear from Federal Highway? All right, I don't see anything moving because you guys have been responding since I've been talking. Great. Let's keep going to the next slide. I know we need to get to subcommittee updates. So the next question. So now in the next three questions, we're going to break down those three categories of content. And for each of those categories, I want to know, what do you think is the most useful format for getting information to you around that type of content? So in this question, for guidance on regulatory requirements and compliance, what documentation format do you find to be most useful? And we have fact sheets, Federal Highway, we do a lot of fact sheets, 1 or 2 pages, in-depth guidebook reports. We do tech briefs sometimes. They're typically about 10 pages or less. Of course, we all have websites, checklists. We do checklists. We have videos. And some of us in Federal Highway will issue newsletters. So in the space of guidance on regulatory requirements, what do you find is the most useful format? All right. Looks like, yes, you like it quick. Okay. Fact sheets and checklists. All right. Thank you. Let's go to the next slide. So again, it's the same type of question, but in this case, we're looking at best practices and case studies. So for best practices and case studies, information around that, what is the type of documentation that you find the most useful? And it's the same list, so no surprises. Fact sheets, in-depth reports or guidebooks, tech briefs, web pages, checklists, videos, newsletters. Maybe a few more. See, we have about 9 responded so far. A few more. 12. Almost half. Almost half. All right. I'm not seeing anyone. So maybe you guys don't like our best practices and case studies information. All right. Well, let's keep moving. Next slide. Next question. So information on capacity building. So this was that third area from the first slide. So as far as information on capacity building, whether it's tools or resources or activities, which documentation format do you find to be most useful? And again, same options are listed. So this is really about, how do we promote or inform you about different resources? What's the best way to do that? What do you want to see from us? Okay, maybe a couple more, I see we're almost at half. We just hit half. Last few people. All right, I see it kind of slowing down. Well, thank you. Looks like again, concise fact sheets and web pages. Okay, thank you. Next slide. I think we only have 2 or 3 left. All right, so we do a lot of in-depth knowledge sharing. I know this committee does, I know different organizations, and definitely Federal Highway. So as a part of, this more in-depth knowledge sharing, whether it's training or workshops, what's your preferred format? So we have webinars, workshops, formal training, one-on-one technical assistance, peer exchanges. They tend to be some of the more typical common formats. I think we do a lot of all of these probably. Uh, Again, let's try to get to at least half. The last few people trickling in a little bit. Peer exchanges and webinars seem to be all right. All right, so I got at least half, so I think we can keep moving up. Another one. Thank you. All right, next slide, next question. All right, so we've asked you kind of what content and how do you want to get that content. This question is how frequently would you like to receive that information? What is sufficient? Monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, or as needed. If we have something, we share it. Or do you kind of want to hear from us on a regular kind of recurrent basis? And if so, what is enough? So we have monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, and as needed. All right, it looks like you do want to hear from us on a regular basis. Maybe quarterly is a good timing, good frequency. Okay. All right. Now let's go to the last 2 questions, and they're a little bit open-ended, and because of time, we'll pause here for a second. But again, if you want to expand on anything you provide, please, please, please feel free to reach out. Lori posted our email address. We would love to hear more. Feel free to call me. I would love to talk more if you have thoughts. But the first question, open-ended question, is what are your agency's biggest current CBPM related challenges that require federal highway technical assistance? So what are some things that your agencies, organizations are looking at now as related to performance-based management, that required federal highway technical assistance? That could be for my team, for Yonda's team, from some other team at Federal Highway. But if it's related to performance-based management, we would love to try to capture that here. And I do realize this may be something that you need to think about. So again, if you want to send us an email with that information, we would love to hear it. Oh, data updates being outdated. Okay, that's good. We are working on, at least on our end, updating some of the published data. So fix HSIP, CFR, yes, yes, yes. Well, the good news, at least the first 2, I'm not surprised by. But keep them coming. We'll wait another few seconds. I'm sure some of you are still typing. Integration, love it. Yes, we've been talking a lot about that on our team. Extreme weather and asset management plan. Yes, we've really been talking a lot about that. And we've heard from a lot of you about extreme weather resilience and risk. So we're hoping to do more on that in the future. All right. I'll give maybe 5 more seconds if you type in. All right, I see. Oh, the TPM TAMP timeline. Yes, yes, that's fair. All right. So last question. And it's just the open-ended, any other questions or suggestions do you have for my team specifically? I talked about kind of our wheelhouse areas that we work. I'm sure you have, heard from us either directly or through the I'm going to take a picture of that and send that to my leadership. I love that. Whoever put that in there, I love it. Oh, thank you. We appreciate the support. It's a constant. I mean, I'm sure you can hear in both some of the comments from Ayanda and myself. It is definitely a daily kind of motivating factor to keep our motivation moving. But let me just say that, and I hope you agree with this. But our teams, Ayanda's team, as well as my team, we have folks that are so dedicated to these areas and committed and willing to do the work. And so I know they will be chomping on the bit to take back your feedback and see how we can over the coming weeks and months, as we plan different things, make sure that we are being as responsive to your needs as we can, given the resources that we have, and hopefully maybe resources that we'll have in the future. So with that, I will just say again, thank you so much for listening to Ayana and myself. We really appreciate the partnership, the engagement, being able to participate on this committee. And at any time, you know us, we know you. Don't hesitate to reach out to us, to reach out to our teams. We love hearing from you, and we listen. We do listen. I know sometimes it seems like Federal Highway doesn't listen. Sometimes they don't listen to me either, but our teams listen, and we want to hear, what you have to say and the feedback. It makes us all better. So with that, I'll just say thank you again. If you have any questions, I don't know if we have a minute or two, if anybody had a quick question. But thanks again for the time. So.
Latoya and Ayanda, thank you so much. We just are so appreciative of our federal partners for all their hard work and for creating this ongoing dialogue within our community of practice. You can see all the applause that's everybody is showing. We certainly appreciate all you're doing, and we appreciate you asking for our feedback on these things too. That's really excellent. And again, just very much appreciated, and very happy to highlight all of this information today. We might have a couple. I'm going to check in with maybe Anna and folks and see if we have a couple minutes for questions, or if we should keep going.
I think we could take a question or two if we have some questions.
And there is one
I would
question
prioritize our time with FHWA. We will have to keep it quick, but if folks have a burning question, for sure.
There is one question in the chat, and I think it was for Ayanda. Are there highlights for the grantee technical capacity risk? And that was Catherine Duffy. Catherine, I don't know if you want to unmute.
Do you have the specifics? Because there might be more than one, like that's a broad. When you said are you specifically, like, what about that? Is there something specific? Because so let me just say, just give me the specific question. I can't answer. So the things now that just our procedure, just so you all know, and it's not me holding back anything that I speak outside external meetings. If it's like something related to something like I do have to get, I would go to the SME just to get clearance and just make sure it's okay. But what specifically, when you say, are there any highlights for that risk?
So it looks
what are you seeing as the risk?
I just looked at participants and it looks like Catherine has dropped off.
Okay, yeah, because I would say like there might be more than one. So yeah. What risk? Which particular grantee capacity risk is like specifically? Is pretty broad. So, yeah, I don't know specifically what she's referring to, which component, or like is it? It says there's probably more than one. So
likely, yeah. Thanks for attempting that.
I don't want to attempt to wordsmith or try to figure out what
right, and just assume so sure. Any other quick questions? for FHWA. I am now Dean. All right. I think you are all off the hook for the tough questions today. So thank you again. All right.
Is there a way I could follow up with her? I had her, I don't know if I have information. I could send her an email and see what specifically she was referring to.
Yeah, I don't know if we have Catherine.
We'll connect you. We'll connect the two of you.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
I'm
Thank
happy
you.
to talk to her on the side if it's
Thanks.
So yeah, now we'll transition over to hearing from our committee and performance-based management subcommittee leads with pertinent updates. And in short, we're going to start with our subcommittee on asset management. Our chair for that, I'm going to name or call out our chairs and vice chair, or co-chairs, vice chairs, because I think it's really important just to recognize our great volunteers who are in these roles. So our chair is Justin Brunner from Pennsylvania DOT, Mike Rossi from New York State DOT, and Matt Verstall from Washington State DOT. And Mike is going to give us some updates from the subcommittee today. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, everybody. I want to make this brief. I'm going to be late to a meeting with the commissioner, but we have three major things I wanted to highlight that have been going on with the committee on asset management. The first is we are working on, as some of you may know, we're working on a asset management course, a national asset management course for new practitioners. We know we're dealing with a lot of brain drain and staff turnover especially at the state level. So it'd be good, you get somebody new in there and, what is this asset management stuff all about? So we're working on that. We're working with a vendor. We've reached out to the vendor recently for like a progress report on what's going on. We met with them a couple months ago. We have not received the response as of this meeting today, which is a little concerning because I'm kind of like hot to trot on that topic, but we intend to follow up with them and hopefully we'll have better news next time we meet. One of the other things I want to bring up is that, and this is really, I think, pretty cool. During our last management meeting, we talked about having a joint meeting with the Committee on Risk. And one of the things that we're struggling with, at least on the asset management side, not say struggling, but really like exploring is this intersection between risk management and asset management, right? And how much does risk play into a risk-informed asset management plan? So the fact that we're coordinating to have joint meetings together moving forward, I think is really powerful, especially when we can make sure that we get their perspective and be able to kind of weaponize and deploy that into some of the asset management strategies that we're using, right? So very excited to have that start. Our first meeting, I believe, is going to be on the 18th. So a week from today, right? Pretty cool. And then lastly, one of the big things that we're doing is the pooled fund with asset management software. We have finalized the contract with the vendor to provide support for the pooled fund. We have moved to the individual technical meetings, and we've already met with like three of the four participants. I think New York is the fourth. We're still, I'm still getting my team together. And then lastly, our first participant is expected to have their test instance up next week, which is pretty cool, right? So a lot of really cool tactical things happening over at the committee, and that should do it. Does anyone have any questions for me before I immediately hang up and run away?
I don't see any hands up. Thanks
Sweet.
so much, Mike. I appreciate you hanging on the line with us, and I'll let you run so you're not late.
You got it. Thank you so much. Be well, everybody.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to the subcommittee on research, and our chair is Mama Mujkanovich with Georgia DOT, Vice Chair Jahan El-Sayed with West Virginia DOT, and our Secretary Deirdre Wallace with Delaware DOT. Mama.
So good afternoon, and thank you, Jean. So I'd like to share the 6 research statements or research ideas that were generated by our subcommittee, and they were selected and approved. The combined value of those 6 projects is over $3 million. So this time around, we were awarded a much higher amount than previously. Among the projects selected for funding are the Performance Management Blue Book, which was highly supported and ranked by our subcommittee, as well as Phase 2 of NCHRP 2332, which addresses asset management, risk, and resilience. On the next slide, I would just like to remind the group that right now there is an active call for synthesis and domestic scan topics. Those are due by June the 15th. As we indicated earlier, these are some additional avenues that we could utilize to submit some research needs that are shorter and also less pricey. Right now, the subcommittee is in the process of eliciting new research needs ideas. In order to do that, we heavily depend on the subcommittees. The CPBM subcommittees will be asked to develop 2 new research needs statements. And we are also asking them to send their representatives to our symposium that will take place on September 11th and present those statements. So as you know, Hiana and her team have been working with us to identify some of the subcommittee's priorities, as well as they developed some outlines that we have readily available. The liaisons could take those outlines and enhance them or change and modify them, or they can work with their subcommittee to develop brand new research needs statements. In October, we are hoping that the research prioritization will take place, where the CPBM leadership group will decide which projects to recommend. And November 1st is the deadline for the NCHRP submission. So we are doing all of this between now and research symposium, and then in October prioritization effort in order to submit the research needs by November 1. And next slide, please. So this is just the calendar of events and deliverables. We keep this active in order to keep track of the major milestones. As you can see, our next CPBM research meeting is taking place on July the 10th from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And also the symposium, September 11th. If you can attend, please come and join us. So Jean, this concludes my report. Now I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Alma. Helpful update for all of us on the process for research. And very successful year for our committee for getting research projects funded. Any questions for Alma? Not seeing any. All right, thank you very much, Alma. Next up is the Subcommittee on Policy and Rulemaking. Our chair is Ryan Huff from Nebraska DOT, and our co-chairs are Jim Padilla from Texas DOT and Michelle Brooke from Maryland State Highway Administration, and Joe and Jim are going to give today's update.
Hello, Joe Burke here from Maryland Department of Transportation, work in the State Highway Administration at Office of Government Affairs. Brian had a conflict and asked Jim here and I to pinch hit today on a quick update on policy and rulemaking. For a second time, and I believe Ryan covered it, the final rule issued on procedures for rulemaking guidance and enforcement into 49 CFR Part 5 was highlighted by him. The NPRM issued a formal process to restrict drone flights near certain fixed site facilities. Comments are ending on that next month, July 6th, for comments requested there. Ryan wanted me to take some time to focus a little bit more closely on regulation for financial assistance rule. On May 29th, OMB proposed a broad update to the federal grant rules in 2 CFR Part 200. They are requesting comments on this new rule update by July 13th of next month. The background on the issue, uniform guidance codified at 2 FR Part 200 establishes the administrative requirements, cost principles, and audit requirements that apply to every federal grant, cooperative agreement, and pass-through award. It governs how federal funds are applied for, awarded, administrated, monitored, and audited across federal agencies. Part 200 consolidated 8 separate sets of federal grant rules which had previously been applied differently to states, local governments, nonprofits, universities, hospitals, into a single consistent set of administrative requirements. Some of the key highlights in the proposed rule: new national policy requirements on federal awards. There will be some implementation of several executive orders that were issued in 2025 related to DEI and other issues. It expanded authority for federal grant agencies to terminate awards, strengthening sub-award recipient reporting to SAM.gov and additional pass-through entity oversights, so a little bit more oversights on sub-recipients and locals. They're going to make some changes to notices of the NOFOs, the notice of funding opportunities, to include plain language and posting requirements, elimination of fixed amount awards, and some new limits on audit requirements. At a high level, the rule is driven by three stated goals: improving transparency and accountability, clarifying the OMB's rules are binding across agencies, and reducing unnecessary grant conditions. The preamble also makes clear that OMB is trying to create a more centralized and uniform grants framework, allowing for faster implementation for future changes and stronger federal control over award administration. For state DOTs, the primary impacts are going to fall into three areas. Discretionary grants award could carry some more risk. The proposal will allow federal agencies to suspend or terminate awards if they can no longer align with program goals, agency priorities, or the national interest. Again, pass-through programs are going to face increased pressure. State DOT pass-through programs, especially local assistance, could face some heightened requirements around the sub-award reporting to SAM.gov compliance and documentation. The administration proposal reinforces cost tracking and risk review requirements while limiting simpler funding structures. Areas that are going to feel the most impact are discretionary grant support, rural pass-through programs, and federally sensitive programs like NEVI. Legal challenges are likely, specifically whether OMB has overstepped its authority. However, based on past regulatory shifts, the rule will likely be implemented first, while portions are challenged and rolled back later. This leaves grant recipients to operate under the published rules and navigate while working for challenges go through the court system. I have the code and the Federal Register noticed here, and a couple articles I'm going to drop in the chat. Let's see if that came through. I will get that to come through momentarily. At this time, I'll pass it over to Jim. He's going to talk a little bit about the Freedom to Drive initiative. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jim Padilla with Texas Department of Transportation. And if we can go back to the previous slide, please. And so I'm going to cover that third bullet point with something that Ryan wanted us to touch on today, which is the Freedom to Drive initiative that was launched on April 20th and focuses on eliminating congestion bottlenecks, reducing delay, and improving overall system performance. States, have been asked to identify their top 2 to 5 choke points and to submit some action plans to the Secretary's office. The requested due date for those was within 60 days of the letters that went out to states, so that should be coming up very soon. The emphasis is on high impact locations, so where targeted investments and accelerated project delivery can help reduce congestion and improve travel conditions. Kind of from the CPBM perspective, this does seem to align pretty closely with PM3 system performance measures, which include measures like travel time reliability and peak hours of excessive delay. And it also reinforces a more targeted outcome-driven approach to improving system performance. At our May policy and rulemaking subcommittee meeting, there was some discussion about how states are trying to leverage existing initiatives and freight plans to inform their submittals. And a third-party resource that was mentioned was the American Truckers Institute Top 100 Truck Bottlenecks as being an input for state submittals. So we'll be interested to learn how all of our states are kind of preparing that submittal and what ultimately they submit. And I believe that's the last update that we had to cover for policy and rulemaking. Just one final plug. Our next meeting is July 14th from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern. So it'd be great to see some of you there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. And Jim, I see Anna has her hand up. So I'm going to run over to Anna first to see if she has more to add.
Thanks, Jean. It wasn't actually a question. I did want to just touch on the proposed rule that Joe talked about. I do think that this is going to have kind of implications kind of beyond CPBM. And AASHTO is planning on commenting on that. So we are working on putting together a comment letter. There's usually one lead committee that works on helping structure a comment letter. And this is going through AASHTO's Committee on Internal and External Audit. So I'm just going to add to the chat the membership to that committee so you can take a look and see who your state's member is on that committee. They're going to be the person that I would encourage you to reach out to discuss the feedback that they're sending to us here at AASHTO as we kind of compile the perspective from the states to be able to send that letter in. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anna. Yeah, this is really important. And I know it's impacting not only our agency, but a number of state agencies who are involved in delivering grants and doing grant making. So obviously a lot of hands on deck on this one. So thank you again, Jim and Joe, for the updates. And now I'm going to check in on the Subcommittee on Organizational Excellence. I see David Putz from Iowa DOT out there. But I just want to see if Dave has any updates for us to share today.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, or I guess it could be late morning for some. Jane, I'm going to ask if there's another slide. I had an opportunity to talk to Gary this week, but not about what was submitted. I do know right now that if you've been a witness to the flurry of emails that Gary's been working on, we're recruiting very, very heavily for our work groups. My understanding, I'm working on the organizational culture one, and we actually have our next meeting a week or this coming Tuesday. That work is going really well. It might be a slightly different take, right? How do you define culture? How do cultures work? Not necessarily what things do we do, right? For example, fairs and competitions and engagement. So a little deeper look, I'm hoping we get then to how that can best inform how we can identify and apply things that we can work on. The other works, for example, the research group I know is meeting. Nigel has set up a meeting for us to discuss okay, I say that. Sorry, I'm trying to drive and talk at the same time. Bad, Dave. No biscuit. But I do know that meeting is coming up. And what I know is that we're actually pretty excited. There's a lot of wind in the sails, and I'm looking forward to learning from all the other subgroups. This is not a volunteer. What I've always had this interest in the rules group. So maybe someday I ever get tired of other aspects, I may go that direction. I actually don't have a lot more than to say. As far as I know, we're working hard and having a good time with it. So unless there are other members of the work groups that would like to weigh in, that's my update.
Thank you very much, Dave. And I see Anna put in the working groups in the chat for us. And
Yes.
I also see she turned on her camera, so I'll just check in and see if she has anything else to add.
That was it, Jean. I just wanted to, yeah, I have those in and the points of contact. So if folks want to get engaged with any of those work groups, please reach out. If you need email addresses, happy to provide those.
And you should not be shy about aiming people at the work groups. I love adding individuals. When you start talking about some of these topics, the more brains we put to it, the more broad the perspectives. I think it's been particularly beneficial in the culture group, and I imagine it's true in the others. So I thank you, Anna, for putting the list there. But uh, I really do encourage folks, if there's anyone new in an organization that's got an area of interest who would like to find a home, or you're trying to find a slot, a way of getting them motivated, the work groups would be one excellent way of doing so. Thank you.
That is absolutely true. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to move ahead to our task force on emerging performance areas. And I think there are some slides for this one. By the way, our chair is Kelly Travelby from Michigan DOT. Vice chair is Tracy Ossendoni from Massachusetts DOT.
Thank you, Jean. Good afternoon, everyone. So just wanted to share that we have distributed our research roadmap, and that has can actually been very valuable in guiding some of the work that we've done over the last few months. Right off the bat, we're going to say we really do need some volunteers to potentially author some research statements. We'll get a little bit more into kind of the 3 areas that we need to take a little bit deeper of a dive into to develop those. And this ties into some of the work that we've been doing, which is next slide, please. Going back to the annual meeting from last year, we had a great tabletop exercise. We had incredible participation. We identified 28 potential topics that folks had interest in, looking at to advance. We've regrouped around that as a task force. We have thought about it from the research roadmap perspective. We tied that back to some of the roadmap task force ID. We have reviewed and commented on prioritization, kind of looking at both for each one of the 28 potential topics, looking at both the impact and the implementation feasibility. And sort of looking at the, ranking them sort of low, medium, and high based on that. In a number of the instances, because we have this really just wealth of interest, there is quite a bit of potential work that needs to be done, cross collaboration with other either CPBM subcommittees or other committees all together outside of CPM. So 15 of the topics were potentially opportunities for the task force to partner with other CPM subcommittees. 8 of them were kind of a one-to-one partnership. 7 additional of those were more working with this another one of the CPBM subcommittees, such as risk management, asset management, organizational excellence, and potentially another ASHO committee. And then 13 were more specifically tied to collaboration opportunities for with other ASHO committees. If you want to go to the next, please. So some of our next steps, again, the kind of 3 really surfaced to the top that aligned with 3 potential research statements, because some of the 28 topics that had been identified, some of them are better for a peer exchange or a webinar, or maybe they're something that we want to look at bringing in a guest speaker for. But 3 really kind of surfaced to the top, and they related to 3 that our friends at Spy Pond had actually already sort of identified. Again, need a little bit deeper dive into those, but also need some volunteers to help do some of that work for developing either a synthesis or a research statement. Kind of the next steps is also, I mentioned all that partnership, outreach opportunity, and collaborating either with some of our partners in other CPM subcommittees or with, outside committees within AASHTO, such as safety, the Committee on Safety, the Committee on Freight, the Committee on Design, the Committee on Planning. We had quite a list of folks that we have cross interests with. So looking for folks to come in and help lead maybe some of those outreach collaboration opportunities. We'll be looking for some guest speakers and potentially contributing to future webinars. Thank you. Next slide. So I just kind of talked through a little bit of the next steps, but and we need to develop some timelines and identify some of the resources for that. Okay, thank you. Next slide. So the biggest component is we need folks to come together and raise their hand to take a leadership role in advancing some of these things forward. Our task membership kind of both continues to grow and also continues to change. Some great leaders have gone on, and I now see their names in leadership roles for some of the folks that have been working with the task force for quite a while. Like Jim Padilla, I see that he's now taken a leadership role with policy and role making. So that's like super exciting. We love to see that. But we're always looking for, new members as well. So we hope that you will join us. Our next meeting is on July 8th. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kelly. Any questions for Kelly? Not seeing anything, so we'll keep moving. We are on our last subcommittee, the Subcommittee on Risk Management. Our chair is Monica Sunich from Texas DOT, and Claire Martini from the Colorado DOT, and Alicia Howard from Delaware DOT. So I think I saw Monica with her camera on.
Yes.
All right. Hey, Monica.
So good afternoon. We had our meeting on Monday, June 8th, and some of our topics include that very research roadmap that we were just talking about. We distributed that to committee members and we're looking for volunteers. We also had a really great discussion regarding kind of TAMP, and as mentioned by the Asset Management Subcommittee, we will be having a joint meeting on June 18th, so I'm plugging that again. We had discussions about the TAMP from Washington DOT, Colorado DOT, Delaware, and Caltrans. And then next slide, I believe. And then we also did we saved some time at the end just for hot topics, just to kind of hear what people were seeing at their DOTs. At Texas, we've been talking about AI quite a bit. And then my area has been having an educational series. So we're going to have our next meeting on June 18th, talking about risk response. We also talked about the Protect formula funding and then the Highway Trust Fund. And then, as mentioned kind of here with the BOLD, we are having that joint meeting next week. And that's all I have.
All right, great. Thanks, Monica. Any questions on this? Great. I'll just open it up one more time just to see if we have any other additional questions for our subcommittee leads. All right. Thank you all for the fantastic updates, and thank you all again for your volunteering to lead subcommittees, for all of your hard work and keeping things moving forward. Really, really appreciate it. Fantastic job, everyone. All right. Just note that any items still in the chat will be answered offline and posted to the TPM for today's recording. I am going to now, I see Christos is on our meeting, so I just want to check in with Christos and see if he has anything to add for today's meeting.
Jean, thank you so much for covering today and doing such an amazing job. Really a big thank you to you, to Anna, to Spy Point Partners, and all of the leadership group for the excellent work. I really want to reiterate something that I put in the chat relative to Gary. Gary's a big loss, to the community of practice. On organizational excellence, on Lean Six Sigma, on change management. He is such a wealth of information, and he's always led from the front on these issues, always willing to help. It's unfortunate that organizational changes are taking Gary away from our Ashdod, committee for now. But very importantly, again, a big thank you to every single one of the folks in the leadership group, particularly to Jean and Ryan and Anna for the work that they have been doing, to Spybond Partners, and of course, Federal Highway Partners, because we could not do all of these without the partnership that we have established for more than a decade now with the Federal Highway Administration. So with that, we can turn it over to Lori and see if we had any action items.
All right. Yes, we have a number of action items today. So, first action items related to providing feedback and or noting deadlines. So, join the fiscal year 27 performance management pooled fund and complete your funding commitments and transfers. Contact Anna for additional details on that. Stay tuned for more information on the CPBM annual meeting. Please volunteer to participate in an NCHRP panel. You can do that on My TRB. The link will be included in the event page with the other meeting materials. So you'll be able to go to this event on the TPM portal, tpm-portal.com, to find that information. Respond to the BTS RFI on the future of data products and services. AASHTO does need state DOT input by June 18th. Join a CPBM committee at the QR code that was provided during the meeting. The direct link will also be provided in the meeting materials on the event page after the webinar. Check out all of those FHWA links and resources in the chat and on the event page. Submit your comments related to the NPRM on formal processes restricting drone flights near fixed site facilities by July 6th. And submit your comments on the rule related to regulation for federal financial assistance by July 13th. And research the subcommittee tasks. So submit, there is a deadline to submit 2026 synthesis and domestic scan topics by June 15th. CPBM committees will each be developing 2 research statements between now and September. Volunteers are needed to author research statements, so do contact your subcommittee of interest to assist with that. NCHRP research ideas will be prioritized by CPBM leadership in October, and research statements are due by November 1st. There is a research symposium on September 11th. Let's see what else. Attend upcoming meetings and webinars. So June 17th is the next TPM webinar on access to destinations. There are a number of subcommittee and task force meetings coming up. Those will all be covered in the next slide, actually, so I won't go through all of those. The next TAM webinar is on July 17th. That will be on organization leadership and culture change. As I said, the September 11th is the date for the CPBM Research Symposium. And finally, October 6th through 8th is the CPBM annual meeting in San Diego, including a full day workshop for CPBM voting members on October 6th. So stay tuned for additional information on that. I will turn it back over to leadership.
All right. Thank you very much, Lori. Nice. Christos just unmuted his mic, so I'll just see if he wants to take it from here. Please.
The only thing I have to say, before we wrap it up again is, you know, please participate in the TSP, because, and as Anna, as you're gonna see from when Anna starts sending more information out, the TSP is really what allows us to create the PR exchanges and bring folks to the annual meeting of the committee. And if you are not a member of the TSP, then we really are not going to be able to help. And we should have more than 50 members of the TSP on the topic of the Committee on Performance-Based Management, given the great subcommittees that we have under auspices. And with that, I'll turn it totally back to you.
Thank you, and fantastic reminder. The TSP is just so important for us. Okay, well, thank you again. That concludes our program for today. Thanks to all of our speakers, especially our FHWA partners and our subcommittee leaders, and for our program for today. Thank you to all of you who attended today as well. Just remember, the notes and materials from this meeting will be posted on the TPM portal. And I also want to invite you to join us in the upcoming webinar for our collaborative series with FHWA. The next webinar will be TPM webinar number 31, Access to Destinations, Exploring the Discipline and How Agencies are Developing and Integrating Access Measures. For more information on this webinar series, please visit tpm-portal.com, navigate to Events in the main menu, and then select TPM Webinar Series. You'll also find archives of previous webinars and links to videos and slides from today's webinar will be posted on the site as well. We also implore you to join us at the upcoming subcommittee meeting or at any of the upcoming subcommittee meetings. Hard for me to say. This is a great way to get further involved in the committee overall and the subcommittees and help really just shape the future of performance management. So thanks to everybody and have a great day.